Hello and welcome back to the channel. In this video, we are going to look at the new 132 scale US Paratrooper set from Warhorse Miniatures. Let's dive in. So Mike does a great job of packaging these up. They arrive in individual baggies, and all the gun barrels have these little peanuts over top of them. There's some incredible detail on these weapons we'll look at more closely. Okay, so I'm going to do my best to go through each one of these figures and tell you what I see as I see it. I apologize if I get the naming of anything wrong, but this is essentially one of the most detailed figures I've ever held. Aside from like a model kit where you can add the various pieces yourself, this has everything sculpted and included on it. These are 3D printed with a resin. Mike has informed me that he's still perfecting the actual recipe for the resin that he wants to use, but my experience with just holding these guys and out of the hand is that they feel pretty sturdy and they have an insane amount of intricate detail down to the little straps that connect to the backpack. Right down here, this lower strap clip. Just kind of taking a peek around the figure, they've got the straps for the rifles included, which you don't typically see that, and I know that that can be pretty cumbersome. Even the straps that are dangling from the helmets, these can be very finicky and fickle. As like if you put too much pressure in the wrong place, especially if you're holding these a lot, these are the areas that are going to be most prone to snapping and breakage, especially the gun barrel tips. That's why he wraps them in a little bit of packing peanut, and everything else seems pretty solid on there. The detail, like the depth of detail, is really remarkable, and even the face sculpts are really, each one of them is a little unique. I was going around and clipping these off camera and I accidentally clipped his finger thinking it was a bit of flash, but that's just the level of detail that is on here. That little pieces like the thumb actually extends up a little bit and curves up like a hitchhiker's thumb, like little stuff like that. I didn't realize it was his pinky and I clipped it off. So stuff like that you need to be aware of. He's got the flashlight here on his jacket, which is really awesome. Sidearm. He's got the the standard issue trench shovel, grenade on the straps here, extra ammo pouches. These guys are like fresh off the plane, ready to clear some inroads for the boys on the beach. Let's look at this other guy. This guy has the M1A1 carbine, but the stock has actually been folded in. So just looking at the bottom of the boots, they've even got some grip detailed texture here, which is really incredible. I don't know how historically accurate it is. I've never seen the bottom of a Paratroopers boot, but that is pretty cool. I haven't seen too many boots sculpted like this. Another detail that I noticed upon reviewing off camera was that he has been able to include his logo. You can kind of see there's his logo. It's a really beautiful logo with the horse, and kind of mimics the golden ratio, with, if you're unfamiliar with that, Warhorse Miniatures. So that's really impressive. Now the next one I'll look at is this running crouch pose. This guy has an M1 Garand. Props to Mike for taking the time to really clean these up as best as he could. They still do look really incredible. This Garand is really impressive because it has this clip attached at the top. So this strap could be extended and clipped through here, and it would could be flung over your shoulder. That's really an amazing little detail. The face sculpts themselves, I think they do actually kind of look like they might be the same exact face. I thought they were a little different. Maybe they're just making different faces. Yeah, like this guy's mouth is open, so the sculpt is a little different. Here's a kneeling pose. One thing that stood out to me is that he's got this canister here. I believe this is either tear gas or flashbang. I'm not exactly sure, but it's got the pull ring right here, which is a really nice, seldom seen detail. I love how the strap wraps around the arm and under the elbow here. That's really neat, like for added security, stabilization while firing. My understanding is soldiers were trained to fire with their elbow up, and I think this looks pretty accurate. Same as this one with the standing pose. And here the knife is pretty pronounced. We'll look at him in more detail in a second. I believe during World War II, American soldiers were told to fire with their elbow up, and then in later, maybe as weapons just became more efficient over time, elbows have been usually more dropped to the side and tucked in. Potentially just makes you a smaller target, I guess, if you're being fired at. Having your elbow out does create a protrusion in your shape, and get your elbow nicked. So let's look at this firing pose now. He's got a similar loadout with the Garand. He's got a grenade on his belt, more ammo pouches. The knife here is really pronounced and large. He's also got the knife on his shin. They all have that, so that's pretty cool. There's this pose here which is like a fast walking pose, and there's another one which is more of like a sprint. So these are similar poses, but the straps are doing different things. The guns are the same. The loadout on the vest is a little different. This guy is missing the extra ammo pouches across his, like the bandolier across his shoulder. This one has it. The faces look to be sculpted a little bit differently too. This one looks like he's pursing his lips, has a more fat in his face, if I were to say anything, which is interesting. Just looks like a wider face. It's a pretty cool little detail. Back loadouts are similar. Again, they both have some more cleanup to do. Not a big deal though. This guy is also missing his leg knife, so I did not notice that at first. He looks like he just has a bit of a lighter load. The last one to look at is this, I believe he might be captain or a sergeant or something. He's got the Thompson machine gun. So he's the only one with the machine gun. Extra ammo on his back. He doesn't have an ammo pouch across his side. His sidearm is actually up on his chest, where a lot of the other ones have him on the belt. He's got his mouth open like he might be shouting orders. All right, so if you've been watching my channel or if you've seen some of my other videos, you're probably aware that I've painted or attempted my best to paint plastic platoon soldiers, which are also incredibly high quality. This is also a Paratrooper set that I have. I got a set of 7 of these guys. They come from makers, I believe they're in Russia. These are incredibly detailed. To date, these are the most detailed sculpts of any armyman that I've ever seen, any toy soldiers at 1/32 scale, but they're just not fun to paint. So this is another one. We'll compare the Thompson machine gun to the same guy. It's not the exact same pose, but it is a similar non-firing pose, and it's worth taking a look at these side by side because they look like they could be fighting alongside each other. Now these are rubbery plastic. Like these are extremely rubbery. Now there's a lot more detail on these ones. They've got the rope, and just overall there's like more folds in the fabric, you know, down to the individual laces and things. But because of the molded nature of it, the softer plastic, and my understanding of how to create these, like they can't make a lot of them before the mold is destroyed. You can get some pretty funky mold lines that are a little tricky to clean up because the plastic is rubber. It just doesn't want to cut easily, and so that's one of the things to consider with these two. Like they look cool on the table and they're fun for dioramas, but if you want something that you can paint, this is not the way to go. I have this other figure who I tried to paint and it just rubs off. This is as far as I got with the others before I gave up with trying to paint them. The process just was not enjoyable, and like trying to paint a gun that wiggles this much, it's no bueno. So as far as like comparing these to plastic platoon figures, I think that Warhorse has got the upper hand for sure. There's like the carbine here. But yeah, a ton of detail on these. So like it's nice to see that detail being matched at this level. So to quickly compare the other one that I like a lot, Toy Soldiers of San Diego. So these are just going to be way cheaper in terms of like how many you get. This is a combination of U.S. infantry and I think this is just the U.S. Marine set that they sell. So a ton of detail, but the face sculpts aren't nearly as refined and chiseled. They're a little bit more mushy overall. Still good for painting, but they lose definition in the eyes. Good detailing overall, and they have these sculpted bases, which is nice, like they all do, but losing some detail in the weapons, specifically like the bar here and this Garand. Like there's some weird lines happening that are just like a little awkward when you're trying to paint them, but like you're like kind of like, what should this be? Is this metal or wood? It kind of mushes together. So compared to those, you kind of get a sense for the detail. I really like painting these. These are a lot of fun, and they're probably going to be just as fun to paint, these new ones too, because it's just the faces are a little bit more refined, and that's the big thing, the detailing in the sculpt. And like for these, I think you get close to 14 or 16 for $30. I can't remember the exact quantity that comes in this, but here's one with the Thompson, so you can see some of the details. Again, they just kind of get a little mushy in the recesses. They do have some sculpted insignias on the arms, but the faces just aren't aren't nearly the same as what you get with these new ones from Warhorse. So good job, Mike. You know, of course, something like this, which is solid plastic from TSSD, you know, you can drop it and you're not really running the risk of anything breaking off. I started to prime another set of these recently, and during that process, I accidentally broke the tip off of this Thompson. I'm glad Mike sent me two. So here's the primed one. You can see that the gun barrel tip just broke right off. And then these again are primed in a similar fashion as these, so you can see them side by side what they look like. When they're painted, they start to really blend together, and they do seem like they fit in the world together. The last one I wanted to look at was my buddy. These are from Finley 3D. So Finley, Jason Finley has a company. It was Scavenger Toys and Collectibles. He sells on eBay. He's got his own line of miniatures that you see me probably painting here on the channel. I've got a lot in the shorts, and I've done a couple of long format videos on these sculpts. He also does the terrain, and his figures are just a lot more, I want to say, sartorial. they're all the uniforms of his figures are really like tight fitting, and these ones tend to be a little bit looser, especially compared to the plastic platoon figures where the uniforms are just a lot baggier and looser. They still have a ton of great detail, and no areas ever really get mushy and lose that detail. They just have tighter uniforms. These are incredibly fun to paint, which is why I paint so many of them. And he's got a wide variety of different sculpts. So these new ones by Warhorse Miniatures, you know, pushing what can be done with 3D in terms of just detail in general. So here's a little support again, just clip that off. So it's nice to see how they compare to each other. I don't have any unpainted or unprimed miniatures from Finley left, so I have to compare them all side by side with best I can. And then of course, you know, you've got your classic poses that are just, you know, they're classic, but they are, you know, more than 50 years behind now what's available with 3D printed technology and how much detail you can get. There's always going to be a special place in people's hearts for these classic sculpts. Even with new production techniques, the sculpt is what it is. And unless Airfix comes in and resculpts everything and comes out with entirely new figures, they're always going to be, I think they're great for learning how to paint because of the price point. You get 14 for 20 bucks, but, you know, and you can obviously get used Army men on eBay and other places. You get them in bulk a lot cheaper, but, you know, this is definitely the nostalgia factor, and like this is that new. So these ones are going to be just a lot more realistic and you know, appropriate for more realistic size dioramas and things. Still 1/32 scale, but better proportions, more detailing,